Does this look fine? Hope I pulled it off. Right, hello, my name is Kirsten, aka Friday Scouse Jit, and welcome to a new video. Now, I know it's been a while since my last face-to-face vid, but here I am. And, well, I'm hoping the confessions vid kind of made up for that lack of my beautiful voice. I was joking about that last one. But, once again, here I am. And today we'll be doing something a little special, because today is actually my birthday. Yep, March 30th, my birthday. And I've been wanting to do this specific video for a while. And, well, I don't know where I was going with that. What I meant to say is that I'll be doing an album review and ranking of all the Monkees albums, while the classic Monkees albums up to changes. And I'm not going to be doing an in-depth review of each album because I'm well aware that each album could be a video all on its own. And speaking of, if you want me to do like an individual review of each album and, you know, post them, please tell me in the comment section. I'd be happy to do that. I actually really like, you know, thinking about why I like each album, talking about it, and just discussing stuff. And, you know, speaking of discussion, I know that some of how I rank the albums and my opinions are going to be a bit unpopular, I guess, and maybe not everyone or most of the people will share this or these opinions with me. But I'm happy to discuss in the comments or somewhere else. I have an Instagram, Tuesdays Requiem. I'll add it to the description, and we can just chat about them. So with that in mind, my number 9 album is Changes, you know, their final album. I liked the 50s sound it seemed to be going with, what with the addition of more prominent background singers, and the songs aren't half bad. However, the tracks aren't all that great either. They all sort of blended in together and weren't entirely distinguishable, with the exception of songs like Acapulco Sun, hope I pronounced that right, and Midnight Train. Plus, it didn't have that Monkees sound to them. It sounded more like a solo Davey Mickey album than an actual Monkees album. For their final album as the classic Monkees, it was a disappointing end. Alright, so number 8 would have to go to their self-titled album, The Monkees. This was originally my favorite album once upon a time, but it moved down the list as I started listening to the other albums more. It definitely sets a great first impression for the group. The songs are great, the vocals are great, and the overall sound is great. Being that it mainly consisted of made-for-TV songs, however, this album is quite heavily saccharine and falls more under the pop rock genre. That is not to say that the overall quality of the songs diminished as a result, but the overwhelming themes of love and fun and other themes that teens would relate to then, present in most of these songs, can get a little tiring. The album's saving grace would have to be songs like Papa Jean's Blues, Sweet Young Thing, and Last Train to Clarksville, which veer a little more away from that pop sound. Overall, it's the picture definition of classic Monkees in sound, both to its benefit and consequence. Alright, so number 7 would probably have to be my most controversial ranking because of how popular the album is and because of my opinions of it. So I hope you guys don't crucify me. So number 7 goes to Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones LTD. The songs certainly improve in quality from, like, let's say their first album, and it's definitely a step in the right direction in terms of music identity and presence. It's honestly really great overall, but I'd have to say that their songs were just a bit weaker here than their other selections. They're all great, and there aren't any necessarily bad songs, but it suffers from its overall average sound. Even some of their standout songs like Star Collector and What Am I Doing, Hanging Round rank a bit lower when considered with the rest of their songs as a whole, even though it's still, again, a step up in progress. Now, what I would have liked to have heard in this album was like if they included Going Down as their final track instead of Star Collector. Because what really ruins it for me is that Star Collector kind of ended on a weaker note in terms of the ending. If they had cut Star Collector shorter than, how it actually turned out, maybe it would have ranked a bit higher. But if they left Star Collector as it was and then added Going Down to the end of the song, I think that it would have been a much better end. So overall, it suffers from being kind of average in my opinion, like changes with higher quality, but it's definitely still an amazing album. Now, I think the number 6 and 5 spot can sort of be interchangeable, so either album could be number 6 or 5, but as of right now, number 6 would have to go to More of the Monkees. I'd like to say that if the Monkees had a saccharine white sugar sound, then I'd have to say that More of the Monkees has a more brown sugar sound, in that, in a way, it had a harder and more matured sound. I think that's due to the more prominent guitar heard in songs like She and I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, which is a lot twangier and gives the song a more genuine rock sound and less of a pop sound. Songs like Sometime in the Morning and Hold On Girl also sound much sweeter and almost more genuine than their previous token love songs. However, that pop rock sound is still there, and it still makes the band seem more like a TV band than a rock band. But the sort of rockier sound the track listings has gives this album an edge over the others, putting it above the previous 3. My number 5 spot would have to go to The Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees. Now, a small anecdote here. Originally, before I first listened to this, a friend of mine told me that I was going to be massively disappointed with it because I was super hyped that Daydream Believer was on it, and so I thought that it was going to be a really good album. So I came with the notion that it wasn't going to be a really good album and sort of set my expectations between really high and really low. And after listening to it, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I really liked the album, the sort of dreamlike, almost psychedelic quality of the songs, emphasized by tracks like Dream World, Tapioca Tundra, and Righting Wrongs, which is kind of surprising if you know me because I don't really like psychedelic tracks or psychedelic rock, but it kind of pulls it off. It has a sort of softer rock sound in that the songs as a whole sound much lighter and relaxing in a way. But it suffers from the inclusion of a bit weaker tracks like Zor and Zam and The Poster, and it kind of sounds like the group is losing its traction, but with their use of studio musicians slowly returning, though it doesn't take away from the overall quality too much. So in general, it's criminally underrated and very relaxing to listen to. My number 4 pick would have to go to the movie soundtrack album Head. I heavily debated its placing, with the quality versus quantity argument playing a huge role in my opinion of it. But first, let's talk about the songs. Because oh my gosh, these songs are just absolutely amazing. Every one of it. Porpoise song, very beautiful and very soothing. Also, very psychedelic, which again, surprisingly didn't bother me, but Diddy Diego War Chant, which is really fun to sing along to and sort of has that double-edged quality, but with its harsher and more realistic undertones being overshadowed by its bouncy and bubbly sound. Circle Sky, which has an amazing guitar riff and addictive rock sound. As We Go Along, an amazingly sweet song with such amazing vocals from Mickey. Can You Dig It? A unique Eastern sound that was pleasant to hear from a band that mostly stuck with the typical rock sound. Daddy Song, which was almost like fan service for me since I'm a huge sucker for vaudeville music. Do I Have to Do This All Over Again? An upbeat and also addictive song that finally showcases Peter on vocals. Plus that guitar interlude is just amazing. However, the fact that 90% of this album consists of random audio grabs from the movie definitely takes away from the overall quality of this album. Had the album just consisted of other songs with the same quality as the songs already included, or if the album was just the songs that are already on here, like had it just been those songs, this album would have definitely been my number 1 or 2 pick. Overall, the stellar quality of the minimal songs present place this album right in the middle of my ranking. My third favorite classic Monkees album would have to go to Headquarters. I love the unique Monkees rock sound the tracks had, which are greatly prominent in songs like Sunny Girlfriend, No Time, Early Morning Blues and Greens, and Randy Scouse Shit, so the latter half of the album basically. And the more love-based songs included, like Forget That Girl and Can't Get Her Off of My Mind, are also very nice, as it steers away from that Kirshner pop sound. Plus, Shades of Grey is an absolutely priceless track that's just very meaningful and emotionally matured. I also love the collaboration and bonding that took place during its recording and is present in its songs through the inclusion of tracks like Band 6 and Zilch. The only real faults are that tracks like You Told Me, Mr. Webster, which I personally prefer the version on More of the Monkees, and Early Morning Blues and Greens don't really hit a chord with me. Otherwise, this album is definitely a defining moment in the Monkee history, which definitely shows in the higher quality of these songs. My second most favorite Monkees album is Instant Replay. Despite Peter not being present during its recording or synthesis, it doesn't really bother me all that much, as Mike, Davey, and Mickey really shine on here. Mike's tracks really make this album for me, as I Won't Be the Same Without Her, Don't Wait for Me, my favorite song, maybe, I'll go into that in another video, and While I Cry are some of his best contributions to the Monkees repertoire. The Girl I Left Behind Me and You and I are also stellar tracks from Davey's part. However, contrary to what I've said some time ago, Mickey's tracks sort of fall flat compared to his other songs, sans Shorty Blackwell, and some of the other songs on here are also a bit weaker than others. So you might be wondering, what makes this so high on the list? Honestly, and this may be a bit weird and unorthodox, the bonus tracks are one of its biggest selling points. Sunday Man, Smile, and Carlisle Wheeling are quite frankly amazing tracks, and added with the already fantastic tracks included on the album, for me it sort of outweighs the flaws the other songs have on here, which makes it one of my most favorite albums. And with that being said, my number 1 pick goes to... Yep, my favorite Monkees album is Present. The songs in here are absolutely great, stellar, just plain amazing. Especially Listen to the Band, Good Clean Fun, Mommy and Daddy, and really all of the songs in here. Now, you might think that it's way too high of praise since I've practically said all those things about other songs on previous albums, but what really makes this album shine is the instrumental and the writing credits. First, just take a listen to some of the song's instrumental backing. And secondly, it's honestly quite heartwarming and nice to see that almost all of the songs on here were written or co-written by Mike, Davey, or Mickey. which really means a lot more to me than them playing their own instruments, because anyone, whether it be hired musicians or the Monkees themselves, could play the instruments and it wouldn't have made much of a difference to me. But no studio musician or songwriter or anyone else would have been able to produce such amazing songs that are on here than these three. Plus, I love the order of the tracks, starting with Little Girl's driving guitar and ending with Pillow Time's lullaby-like sound is so satisfying to listen to. It's like the White Album in a way, with how it started with the hard rock back to the USSR and ended with the soothing good nights. And we all know how amazing... Okay, I wonder how many times I've used that word on here. We all know how amazing that album is. So yes, I'm very, very certain and confident that Present is my favorite classic Monkees. No, just my favorite Monkees album ever. So what do you think? I'd like to know your thoughts below, or you could just DM me on Instagram, username Tuesday's Requiem, which I'll include in the description. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next week.